I was down to my last $50 when I saw the ad. Night shift, cook needed. No experience required. Cash paid daily. Apply in person. Elysian Diner, exit 0. It didn't make sense. I'd never heard of exit 0. I'd driven up and down that stretch of highway more times than I could count when I was delivering cargo, and I would have noticed a diner, especially one offering cash under the table. But desperation doesn't leave room for logic. Bills were piling up. My landlord had stopped knocking and started padlocking, so I went looking. It was late afternoon when I drove north out of Ash Pine, watching the signs tick by. Exit 3, exit 2, exit 1. And then, like a glitch in the highway, exit 0 appeared. It was a faded green sign with no reflective paint, half swallowed by fog and tree roots. The off-ramp curved steeply down through a corridor of skeletal trees until it leveled out into what looked like another time entirely. There it was, the Elysian Diner, sitting alone beside an empty lot of cracked pavement and broken gas pumps. The neon sign buzzed faintly, just the word "open" flickering in dull red. The building itself looked preserved in dust and grease, like a memory someone forgot to let die. I parked and sat in the car for a minute. There were no other vehicles, no sound of birds, not even wind, just a kind of waiting silence. The front door opened before I could reach for it. A man stepped out, middle-aged, apron stained with old oil, cigarette burned halfway down to his fingers. "You here for the job?" he asked, like he'd been expecting me. I nodded. He didn't ask for my name, didn't ask for a resume. "Follow the rules and don't ask questions," he said, tossing me a faded note card. "If you can make it till sunrise, you'll get your pay. Don't worry about dishes. Just cook what they order." I glanced down at the card. 5 rules, handwritten in a jittery, pressed-in scrawl. The orders will appear on the ticket wheel. Don't question how. Just cook them. Place the food on table 7. Always table 7. Don't look at the other tables. Never watch them eat. If the bell above the back door rings, do not open it. When the clock hits 3:33, lock the fridge. No matter what. I blinked. What kind of... But the man was already walking away, muttering something about making it through my shift. I stepped inside. The diner smelled like scorched bacon and something faintly metallic. The booths were cracked vinyl, the jukebox dead in the corner. The kitchen was surprisingly clean. Too clean, like it had never been used or had been used too recently. A single glowing order wheel sat on the counter, spinning lazily. I figured it was just some weird initiation prank, maybe something the old guy set up with timers. I killed time by wiping counters, setting out silverware no one would use. No customers came in, no headlights passed outside. Then, at exactly 12:01 a.m., the order wheel buzzed. I jumped. The first ticket slid into view. Steak rare, no sides, glass of milk. There was no one in the diner, no doorbell, no seat creaked. Still, I cooked. The stove lit with a hiss that felt louder than it should have been. I slapped the steak down and watched it sizzle. The smell unusually rich, like it had been aged just right. I poured the milk into a glass so cold it fogged my hands. The second I plated the meal, the ticket began spinning again. Fast. Grilled cheese, no crust, tomato soup, table 7 inches, table 7. I looked out through the order window. There were booths labeled 1 through 6 and 8 through 12. But right in the middle of the floor sat table 7. A round, wooden table, newer than the rest, with a single chair pulled out slightly. I carried the plate over, setting it down gently. I didn't hear anything. I didn't look around. I followed the rule. On my way back to the kitchen, I felt it. Not saw, not heard, felt. Like something was sitting at every single booth, holding their breath. I focused on the spatula in my hand, the grease on my shoes. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The air behind me shifted, the way it does when a large animal moves in a quiet room. The next order came in before I reached the counter. Liver and onions, warm ginger ale, no ice. I cooked it, my hands beginning to tremble. This wasn't a prank, or if it wasn't the kind meant to be funny. At 2:13 a.m., I heard the bell above the back door ring. It was soft, harmless even, but it rang, and the air inside the diner changed. The bell rang again, soft, deliberate, like a warning cough before a stranger speaks your name. I stood frozen behind the counter, one hand still gripping the spatula, the other resting lightly on the latest order ticket. I hadn't touched the back door since I arrived, hadn't even walked past it, but now it was calling me, not with words, with the sharp metallic chime that echoed too long in the silence. I took a step forward, then stopped. Rule number 4. If the bell above the back door rings, do not open it. I stared down at the note card the old man had given me. It was damp now, sweat or condensation I couldn't tell, but the ink hadn't smudged. The rule was still there, still clear, still simple. Doctor, not open. The bell rang a third time, but this time it was followed by a knock, a single, flat thud against the metal. Not forceful, not urgent, but somehow full of intent. Like whoever, whatever, was back there didn't need to rush. It just wanted to remind me it was waiting. The order wheel spun again. Double-stacked pancakes, butter only, syrup on the side. I tore the ticket off and forced myself to move, every muscle stiff like I'd been sitting in snow. The knock came again, louder this time, 3 in a row. I cooked in silence, heart pounding like a second clock in my chest. The butter hissed on the grill, and the scent of browning batter almost distracted me. Almost. Behind me, the knocking stopped. But then I noticed something worse. The fridge was open. I hadn't opened it. I turned, slow and careful. The industrial fridge door was wide open, its interior light blinking erratically. Inside, things had moved. The milk was on the floor, the eggs were cracked, some shattered completely, and the meat that had been carefully packed on the top shelf was now sitting directly in the center of the bottom tray, in the shape of a perfect circle. I took one step toward it. Then I remembered rule number 5. When the clock hits 3:33, lock the fridge, no matter what. I pulled my phone from my pocket. 3:14 a.m., 19 minutes to go. I didn't clean the mess, didn't close the door, just left the pancakes to finish and stepped back from the fridge like it might lunge. I plated the order, hands trembling, and walked it out to table 7. This time, I didn't make it back to the kitchen before it happened. A fork lifted from the plate. Not fast, not violently, just lifted. Suspended a foot above the dish like it weighed nothing. Then, slowly, deliberately, it turned and vanished mid-air. The food on the plate began to disappear, bite by bite, leaving behind small indentations, crumbs, and greasy smears like someone was enjoying it immensely. The sound of chewing filled the room, wet, deliberate, like someone gnawing too long on a mouthful of meat. I didn't breathe, didn't blink. I just walked backward until the counter touched my spine. Then the bell rang again. Back door. Only this time. The sound was inside. I spun. The bell was swinging, but the door was still shut. No wind, no draft, no reason for it to move. and yet it did. I grabbed the spatula like it was a weapon. I don't know what I thought I'd do with it. Cook whatever was in there to death? Flip it? That's when the door handle twitched. Not turned, just twitched. A tiny motion, like something with fingers was getting familiar with how it worked. I took a step closer, and I swear on whatever soul I had left. I heard breathing on the other side. A slow exhale, thick, wet, like someone with lungs too big or too wrong was just enjoying the air between us. 3:26 a.m., 7 minutes. I backed into the kitchen and braced the fridge door shut with my body. It didn't feel cold anymore. The light inside was pulsing and I could hear something shifting on the metal shelves behind it. Something clicking, not like plastic or glass, like joints, like bones adjusting themselves into a new shape. The back door handle began to turn. My phone vibrated. New message from a number I didn't recognize. Don't open the fridge too late. They like it cold. No number, no name, just that. I stared at the fridge, at the door, at the pulsing light, and I waited for 3:33, 3:32 a.m. 1 minute. The air inside the diner had changed again. The heat from the grill was gone, replaced by a biting cold that radiated from the kitchen floor itself. The tiles had begun to fog, as if the cold was seeping up through the building. My breath came out in plumes. The only warmth in the room was my body heat, and even that felt like it was being drawn out of me. I pressed my shoulder against the refrigerator door, counting the seconds. Behind me, the bell over the back door was still ringing, but now it had no rhythm. It swung lazily, unevenly, like something had passed through it, except the door hadn't opened. Had it? I checked the clock on the wall above the order window. The second hand was frozen, not moving. It had stopped just past the 12th mark. I looked at my phone instead. 3:33 a.m. Without another thought, I grabbed the fridge's built-in lock bar, slammed it across the seam, and yanked the metal latch into place. The moment the padlock snapped shut, something inside the fridge slammed against the door. Hard. Not like a carton of milk tipping over, like a body. The impact nearly knocked me back. The shelves inside shifted violently, and something let out a muffled, inhuman groan. I clutched the padlock with both hands, as if it might burst open without warning. The refrigerator lights blinked in a seizure-like pattern. White, red, green, black, then died out completely. The hum of the compressor stopped. The fridge went silent, but the diner didn't. The lights flickered. Once, twice, then they cut off completely. The only light now came from the red neon "Open" sign out front. It cast the room in a soft, sickly glow, just enough to see shapes, but not enough to define them. I turned. The booths were full now. I hadn't heard anyone come in. No bell, no doors, but every booth, every seat was now occupied. Or at least they should have been. The outlines were there. Figures, mostly still. Some sat upright, others leaned in toward the tables. One had its head cocked too far sideways, resting against the window like it had no bones in its neck. Another had impossibly long arms that draped over the table and spilled to the floor like shadows. I couldn't see their faces, couldn't hear them breathe, but I knew they were watching me, all of them, waiting. The ticket wheel spun violently, slapping against the metal frame like it was panicking. A new slip spat out, its paper curled and twitching like it had been soaked in static. Blueberry pie, extra whipped cream, served cold, don't look in the whipped cream. I stared at the ticket. What the hell did that mean? Another slip appeared right after. Turkey sandwich, white bread, lettuce only. cut diagonally. Don't talk to them if they speak. I didn't hesitate. I cooked. The kitchen was pitch black except for my phone's flashlight, which I balanced in a cup on the counter. My hands shook as I sliced through the turkey breast and laid it out on bread that looked wrong. The texture was off. The crust flaked in layers like tree bark or old skin. I didn't ask questions. I cut the sandwich diagonally. I opened the fridge just long enough to grab the whipped cream, still cold, thankfully, and dumped it in a swirling pile on a slice of blueberry pie. I didn't look at it. I didn't need to, because as I carried the pie to table 7, the whipped cream whispered to me. Tiny, choked voices, like trapped breath leaking through cotton. Let us out. It's cold. The fridge lied. I set the plate down gently, hand trembling. Something unseen breathed in, sharp, quick, like a creature gasping in excitement. And then it began to eat. The fork lifted again, but this time it didn't stop. It didn't chew in silence. It spoke. A low, gravelly voice that came from nowhere and everywhere. You shouldn't have locked the fridge, it said. I froze. The pie on the plate deflated as something invisible devoured it bite by bite. You didn't lock it soon enough. The voice was wet, rotting. It sounded like it had lived too long inside something dead. You let it out. I took one slow step back, and then the lights flickered. Just once, long enough for me to see the fridge door open. The fridge door was open, wide. The padlock lay twisted on the floor like it had been melted. Not picked, not broken. Melted. The metal curled like taffy and smoking faintly on the tile. The interior light flickered erratically, revealing only absence inside. No milk, no eggs, no meat, only a thick trail of black condensation streaking from the bottom shelf to the floor, like frostbite had melted into oil. My phone buzzed. New message, unknown number. Don't turn your back to it, it's still hungry. I didn't respond. I couldn't, because I wasn't alone anymore. There was something in the kitchen with me. The smell hit first. Rotten Freon and butcher shop decay, thick and syrupy. It coated my lungs, made me gag. Then came the sound. Something dragging across the tile. Wet, rhythmic, like meat slapping porcelain. I turned toward the walk-in freezer door. There, half sunken in shadow, was a shape. A low, slouched thing crouched in the center of the floor where the fridge trail ended. It was feeding. Its back twitched unnaturally with every movement of its arms. If they were arms, they bent in too many places. Whatever it had been eating stopped squelching, and the thing went still. I held my breath. The air around it shimmered with cold. Not temperature cold, presence cold. Like it wasn't supposed to exist in this world. Like the diner was barely holding it back. Then it stood up. Slow, deliberate, bone by bone, and taller than anything I've ever seen indoors. Its head scraped the low ceiling. Its shoulders unfolded outward, pressing against the cabinets with a sickening crack. It didn't face me. Not at first. Its attention was fixed on the order window like it was waiting. Then the wheel spun again. Club sandwich, triple stack, no tomato, deliver personally. Deliver, personally, no plate, no drink, just the sandwich. I glanced back at the creature. It was facing me now. Its eyes, if you could call them that, weren't eyes at all. Just empty hollows, deep and slick, as if something inside them pulsed in slow, deliberate time. But I felt them all the same. It wanted the sandwich. No, it wanted the delivery. Somehow, I knew. If I didn't obey the ticket exactly, something worse would happen. I moved slowly to the prep station, never taking my eyes off the thing. As I stacked the bread, my hands barely worked. I was shaking too hard to spread the mayo, and the lettuce stuck to my fingers like dead skin. I didn't bother cutting it. I wrapped it in wax paper and stepped around the counter, holding the sandwich like an offering to a god I didn't believe in. "Where do I whispered. The lights dimmed further. The bell above the back door rang. Not once, but twice. 2 clean chimes, and the thing smiled. Or at least, it did something that mimicked smiling. Its jaw unhinged with a slow, wet crack, and its entire midsection twisted toward the sound. One arm lifted, pointing, toward the back door. I understood. I didn't want to, but I did. The sandwich wasn't for a customer in the diner. It was for something outside. I stepped toward the door. My shoes squelched in the black condensation that had spread from the fridge to the floor. The creature didn't follow me. It just watched, its body vibrating with anticipation. As I reached for the doorknob, my phone buzzed again. "Do not hand the food directly. Set it on the red crate." My eyes darted around. Sure enough, just outside the narrow glass window in the back door was a red milk crate sitting alone in the middle of the loading dock, half swallowed by fog. I opened the door. The air that rushed in was wrong. It didn't smell like night or outside. It smelled like dust from a tomb, like old air, stale decades. I stepped out onto the dock, barefoot now. I don't even remember kicking off my shoes, and placed the sandwich on the red crate. The moment I let go, the fog surged forward. A long, low growl slid through it. Not aggressive, not threatening, grateful. Then, it took it. The sandwich vanished without hands. The fog folded inward like a curtain falling, and something wet slithered back into the dark. I backed into the diner and closed the door. The creature was gone. So was the black trail. So was the stench. The lights hummed back to life. The ticket wheel spun once more. Just one order. "Coffee. For you. Drink it. Now." I stared at the ticket. "Coffee. For you. Drink it. Now." The words were plain, but they settled into my chest like ice. Every order before this had been for them, whoever or whatever they were. This was different. It was personal. The machine hissed behind me, unprompted. I hadn't touched it. No one had. Still, the old drip brewer sputtered to life, steam rising from the carafe as if something invisible had pressed the button. I didn't move at first. The diner was silent again. The booths were still full, shapes unmoving, eyes I couldn't see burrowing into the back of my skull. I hadn't dared look at them since the fridge incident. I knew better now. Don't acknowledge what you want. But this was new. A coffee order for me. The smell was stronger than it should have been. Not bad, not good, just intense. Like the scent had weight. Like it was meant to sink into your lungs and change you from the inside out. I approached the counter, and the coffee mug was already there. Pale ceramic, rim chipped, filled to the very top with thick, dark liquid that didn't steam. It shimmered. It looked less like coffee and more like oil, or blood under moonlight. I looked at the ticket again. "Drink it. Now." I picked up the mug. It was ice cold. Not room temperature, cold like it had been pulled from a freezer in another dimension. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. This time, the message was just 3 words. "Trust the drink." I tilted the mug, just slightly, and caught my reflection on the surface. Except, it wasn't mine. It looked like me, but older, gaunt, bruised beneath the eyes. My reflection opened its mouth, slow and deliberate, and whispered something I couldn't hear, but I felt it in my bones. It's already inside. I drank. I didn't mean to. My body moved before I could stop it, like a puppet on a worn-out string. The mug tipped, and the liquid hit my tongue. Cold, bitter, metallic. It flooded my mouth like it was drowning in a frozen lake. My limbs locked, my throat closed. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Then it was gone. Not the coffee, the silence. Gone. Suddenly, I could hear everything. Whispers at every table, names I didn't know, screams, distant but close, like they were echoing in from behind the walls. From inside the walls, footsteps above the ceiling tiles where there should have been a roof. The ticket wheel spun again, but no order came out. Just a blank slip. The machine buzzed like it was stuck in a loop, like it was trying to communicate without words. And then I understood. The coffee wasn't a drink. It was a threshold. Something had opened in me. My hearing, my mind. I could feel thoughts that weren't mine. Memories that didn't belong to anyone living. Images of people, waitresses, cooks, janitors, working this diner across decades. All of them with the same hollowed eyes. All of them obey the same rules. And I could see how they ended. They didn't quit. They didn't leave. They were still here, somewhere in the booths, trapped in the shadows, still fulfilling orders with invisible hands, still delivering sandwiches to things that shouldn't exist, still waiting for their turn to be set free. The neon sign outside buzzed louder. Open! 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 I looked up at the order window, and something was scribbled in grease across the glass. I hadn't noticed it before. A message, faint but deliberate. The last shift always ends in fire. My head spun. I staggered back and caught myself on the prep counter. The smell of the coffee still clung to my lips. My reflection in the napkin dispenser flickered. My eyes were wrong now. Not glowing, not possessed, just tired. Like someone who'd been working this job for too long. The bell at the front door jingled once. Someone, or something, had entered. But I hadn't heard the door open. I turned toward the booths. They were all empty now. Every single one. No figures, no shadows, no breath. Just an old man standing by table 7, wearing the same apron I'd seen on my first day. The man who hired me. He raised one hand slowly and pointed at the grill. I looked down. It was on. The flames were licking higher than normal, unnatural blue and green hues curling along the steel like they weren't consuming grease, but time. Another ticket printed. Only 2 words. Last order. Last order. That's all the ticket said. No food, no drink, just a statement, a command, a curtain call. I stared at it as the ticket wheel slowly came to a stop. The final paper curled like a snake shedding skin. The kitchen lights dimmed, one by one, flickering like candle wicks struggling for oxygen. The grill still burned. Hotter now, the flames dancing with colorless tongues that licked the walls and didn't cast shadows. The old man stood by table 7, unmoving. I opened my mouth to speak, to ask him what the hell was going on, but before I could, he faded. Not walk away, not disappeared, just thinned out, like smoke, like memory, until nothing was left but his apron lying neatly over the back of the chair. And then I understood. He was the last one, the one before me, the one who handed over the shift. I was next. The coffee, the voices, the visions. It wasn't just awareness, it was inheritance. This place doesn't fire people, it promotes them, one shift at a time. The door to the walk-in fridge creaked open again, but I hadn't unlocked it. The padlock was back, reformed, refrozen, whole, and it was unlatched. Open. The frost-coated door edged forward, just wide enough to expose the darkness inside. and inside that darkness, something was breathing. A low, patient inhale, followed by a bone-rattling exhale that misted into the air and coated the prep counter in ice. The front doorbell rang. I turned. Another figure had entered. Not a shadow, not a customer, a girl, maybe 20, tired eyes, hoodie pulled up, smelled like gasoline and old rain. She looked around, confusion painted across her face. Are you guys open?" she asked, peering toward the empty booths. Her voice was real. Humans. The first in hours. I nodded slowly, my lips moving before I could think. "Yeah, we never close." She sat at the counter, right in front of me, smiled politely, unaware of the weight she'd just stepped into, unaware of everything. My hand moved to the ticket wheel. I didn't touch it. It spun on its own. A new order printed. Grilled cheese, no crust, tomato soup, table 7 inches. I froze. That was the second order from my first night. It was repeating, looping. The girl tapped the counter lightly. "Is everything okay?" I looked at her and saw a flicker, just for a second, of someone else. Another girl, another face, sitting in the same spot, years ago or years from now. I couldn't tell. The diner had no clocks anymore, not real ones, just 3:33 burned into every ticking thing. "I'll get that started," I said quietly. The grill flared as if it had heard me. The bread toasted without butter. The soup heated in a pot that hadn't moved in days. The wheel spun again. "Don't serve it to her until she asks for water." That wasn't how this worked. Usually the orders came with full instructions. Set it on the table. Don't look, don't listen. Deliver personally. But this was a test. The girl rubbed her temples and muttered, "God, I'm thirsty. Do you have water?" And just like that, the rules snapped into place. I plated the grilled cheese, poured the soup, and walked it out to table 7, which was somehow there and not there. In the dead center of the diner, framed by fogged-up windows that didn't lead outside anymore. She thanked me, picked up the sandwich, and paused. "Did you hear that?" she asked. I shook my head. "Hear what?" But I knew. From the walk-in fridge, something howled. Muffled, starving, not angry, just waiting its turn. She didn't hear it again. But I did. I heard everything now, because the coffee was working. The shift was binding. The rules were inside me, written on my bones. The lights dimmed. The fog curled in. The girl ate, and I understood. This wasn't a job. This was containment. We feed them. We follow the rules. We keep them here, inside the fridge, in the fog, in the booths, in the boundaries of the Elysian diner. The last order is never yours. It's the next shift. So when the grill finally cooled and the clock behind the counter ticked its last 3:33, I found a pen, wrote 5 simple rules on an old napkin, taped it to the register, and waited. Because someone else will come soon, desperate, hungry, and they'll see the sign on the highway. Exit 0, diner open all night. And just like me, they'll answer the ad.